Um,
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful tasting with a virtual tasting society. Today, we're excited to welcome a brand that most of us have never heard of. I mean, I think one person has. I've never heard of you guys, and you're here in our backyard, Northern California. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. We have Bonnie and Nate, right? Nate Randall.
Correct. Yep.
Wonderful. From Hinterhaus. Interesting name. Doesn't sound Californian. We're excited to learn all about you, all about the brand. You guys have put in front of us really, I mean, all the whiskeys, right? So it's not just bourbon, it's not just rye, it's not just single malt. It's a little bit of everything. So a little bit for everyone. We're excited to try it out. We've got some nerds in the room, so please join us. Thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and walk us through this tasting. Yeah.
I love it. Well, I'll give kind of the brief boilerplate, and then I'll let Nate really get into the nitty-gritty of the whiskeys. But you did notice correctly, Vadim, our name Hinterhaus. It's a very good German word, and it quite literally means back house, a house behind, a house in the back. We have family in Berlin, Germany. My grandfather came from the Alps of Italy. So when it came time to decide on a name, it was more than a name. Of course, it's a brand. Our distillery is situated at about 4,500 feet elevation. We are in Northern California in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And to me, I wanted a name that kind of conjured up all of these amazing times that we got to spend visiting the European Alps, and playing into some of our family heritage there, and just what we love. So we arrived at the name Hinterhaus or Hinterhouse, how most people say it, and it kind of stuck. And very importantly, Americans can pronounce Hinterhaus fairly okay compared to most other Alpine names that we went through. When we began this journey, and Nate will speak more to this, but we are a husband and wife. We've been married now 20, almost 26 years. It'll be 26 years in a week. So we've been together a long time, and our distillery was absolutely something that took most of our lives in the making. So we had jobs in corporate America. Nate worked for Fortune 500s. At startups, we both worked for Silicon Valley startups. And then I worked in the wine industry, and I did a lot in the wine industry, but particularly wine clubs, sales, and hospitality. So eventually, Nate was kind of saying, "Hey, I think it's time that we actually look at starting this distillery and this business that we had spent quite a number of years talking about." And that was in the year 2019. And I came on board and I said, "Okay, I think we're going to marry our skill sets, and we're going to hopefully produce some unique things." As you'll see, single malt has really been the driving force behind our whole ethos. But whereas single malt is what we love, bourbon we knew was going to help pay the bills. So we'll talk about our bourbons and how that fits into our lineup. We also produce gins and vodka and alpine inspired digestifs as well. So we really do a whole host of things. We opened our doors in the fall of 2020, and that just wasn't particularly planned. It was just how our DSP license came through, and our state and our local jurisdictions, everything kind of came through in the spring of 2020, which was an interesting time to say the least. Um, we had a few discussions. Should we do this at all? Should we maybe just call this quits like right out of the gate, because COVID was a very real and very scary thing. And I'm very glad that we kind of stuck to our guns on this, and we said, no, let's do it. It's not going to change the way we want to live or what we want to do with our lives. So we opened our doors in 2020, and I'll let Nate, I'm gonna start by actually really quickly suggesting the first pour, which is our single malt. It's our American single malt, and it is the Discovery series. So you're going to notice it says Discovery. Now, I know you all have sample bottles, but I want you all to see, and I apologize, my bottle is down this low,
Yeah,
so I don't have a,
we don't like it at all.
yeah, this does
I was
not
gonna
get
say, if you had a full
consumed.
bottle, there'd be a problem. The way
I
it should
know.
be.
I know. So so the Discovery series, it also happens to be batch number 5. That's what everyone has. I'll let Nate take it away from here, but we're gonna pour a dram ourselves.
And if anybody wants to line them out, we're gonna go the American Single Malt Discovery. Then we're gonna go batch one of the American Single Malt Singularity. And then we're gonna switch to this crazy 21-year-old Canadian rye, Trapper's Oath. And then we're gonna do the 92 proof standard Calaveras cask finished bourbon. And then we're gonna go the two single barrels in order. So I think you guys have
21.
21 and 25.
You read my mind.
Yes.
I was just gonna ask what order we should put them in because a lot of us have
Yep.
6 glasses in front of us, so we're
Yep.
excited.
Yes.
Good. All
Perfect.
right.
So yeah, the other thing I think just like contextually, we're in a very small town called Arnold. It's a vacation community in the Sierra Mountains. It was built mostly up in the 60s. So you can see we've got an A-frame and a old school kind of house here. And the town only has like 3,500 people in it full time. On the weekends, it can grow to 10, 15, or 20,000. So really, it's people on vacation that discover us and then go back home to wherever they might live across the world. So that's been a pretty cool experience for us to be able to share with people from all over the place who are passionate about things. Um, we and I, with this idea, I definitely had it before Bonnie got on board. And we're just like anybody else. So we were huge spirits fans before starting this thing. And it just kind of spiraled out of control, and now we own a distillery. So anything that we do, we view it through the lens, or I always view it through the lens first as a person who loves spirits. So you'll see a ton of transparency, not because we're trying to be cool and it's the right thing to do or whatever the marketing of it is. It's that I wanted to know this information growing up and loving spirits. And so we put a ton of information on the back of these. Like, you guys don't have these and it's really hard to get it visualized there, but we literally are listing the grains, the percentage of grains, the ages, the types of barrels, the percentages, all these details that I think are pretty cool. Probably 5% of the world also thinks it's cool. But for that 5%, I think it's pretty neat to have it in there. So anyways, you'll notice that. Um, I don't know if you want to provide any tasting notes, or do you guys prefer to
I
just
don't sip it.
do your own thing? I don't want to put things in your head.
Yeah.
Well, you are hanging out with the 5% you mentioned. We
Yeah.
love the transparency and having all the details, right? That's what we're always looking for.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and we're also it's not absolute consistency we're going for. So that's the reason for the batch numbers. Every batch is meant to stand on its own and it's meant to be a fun thing. Again, being a fan myself, I don't want to produce the same thing every single day. That sounds extremely boring. So we could do get very, very creative. So you can expect batch to batch, bottle to bottle. It's going to vary. Hopefully it's the best we can do with that batch, but it's not going to be the same as the last one. It's not, one of the big macro brands. So on this one, we have local malts. Many of you may be familiar with Admiral Maltings out of Alameda up here in Northern California, floor malted grains. We've taken three different grains. So Maiden Voyage, California Spirit, and then Kilnsmith. Kilnsmith is like one of your darker roasted grains. We've got two cooperages that we're using, one out of Kentucky called Kelvin, and another one out of Calistoga that gets a lot of French oak for wineries. And then we've done a primary aging in new charred American oak, char number 3, medium toast, if anybody is super interested in that. And then we finished it in a variety of casks. So X rye whiskey, X Zinfandel casks that also had our bourbon in it for a period of time. So just getting totally creative and having a lot of fun. We got an age of 21 months on here.
So
Again,
Nate,
yeah, go for it.
are you making all these, obviously not the Canadian rye, but are you making the bourbon and making the single malt, all everything in house, nothing sourced?
That's a good question. So backing up, the way we built the distillery is kind of like three legs. So we work a lot with wine. Bonnie mentioned vodka, gin, liqueurs. Those are all made from red wine that we source from Northern California. So that's kind of one leg is working with wineries and our natural resource is wine. There's a lot of it, obviously, more and more of it available as wineries are struggling. And then the second leg is really what we built the equipment and the distillery around, and that's American single malt whiskey. We're super passionate about single malts before starting this thing, and we made the decision right away that we wanted to lauter our wash, and we wanted certain equipment to be able to make that single malt. So that's really our focus as far as whiskey, what we might call grain to glass, sourcing interesting grains, working with different malt bills and playing with that sort of world. And then, as Bonnie alluded to, bourbon is king in this country. And we knew for the average person walking into our distillery, if we didn't have a bottle of bourbon on the shelves, it would make it much harder for us to survive. I'm a big fan of bourbon and was a big fan of bourbon before even starting this thing. And so the bourbon is the third tier, and that's the sourcing tier. So our work there revolves around trying to find interesting mash bills, a lot of times from distilleries that people know, but we try to find mash bills that they might not have had access to or might not have seen before. So making it interesting. And then we'll talk about what we do with it. And then the rye here is just a really weird opportunity that came across our plate, and we'll talk about that too. But yeah, so the single malt is our grain to glass, baby, that we really put most of our distilling and mash bill and fermentation efforts into. Um,
Nose on
the
this.
other,
So interesting. I don't think I've ever had a whiskey that knows like this.
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
I'm a huge fan of the aroma of whiskeys, and if I can't get past the aroma, then I can't take it out of the barrel. I can't bottle it, so that's why we do a lot of secondary aging because I'm like, if I don't like where it's at on the nose, then I'm like, I want to throw it in something else and hit it with something else and try something different. Hence the name Discovery.
Yeah.
Where the whole plan with this is we could have over our first 5 years here, we have found malt bills and aging protocols that we really enjoy. And we could have said, that's our American single malt whiskey. We're going to do that. But there's so much more to discover. And I feel like the rest of my life is going to be discovering what we can do with American single malt whiskey. And then it'll be up to our son, who's the assistant distiller, to figure out what to do with all these crazy experiments I've done over the next hopefully many, many years. Um, but yeah, this is a fun one. I don't know if you want to comment on
It
it.
is, yeah. And I never really want to neglect this with Discovery. So um, we we celebrate obviously single malt from around the world. As Nate said, we were big Scotch single malt fans, but we certainly got into Japanese single malts and eventually we got into American single malts. And the one thing that we value about single malt more than any other style of whiskey is just that you really can make it resonate with your distillery and or your location. I think single malt is lighter and nuanced enough. It's not necessarily light, certainly if it's an Ardbeg or a big peated one, but it has enough nuance to the grain, to the malt, that I think it allows us as distillers to really work with it. It's more malleable and not so in your face as bourbon. So for that reason, we wanted to lean into what some of our favorite single malt producers were doing around the world, which was how do we reflect our region and our ethos. Almost all of the malt that we get, Nate mentioned, for this product is grown in Northern California near the Davis area. And we've gotten to meet the farmers that grow it, the Shop family, fifth generation farmers. So we can go completely upstream to the farm and the growers of the barley, which to us was really important. And then it gets floor malted to our specs in any given batch in Alameda in the Bay Area, Admiral Maltings, which he mentioned too. So in that way, we really wanted this to be a bottle that resonated with our patrons, but also with our location and our region.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's really important to us, and the name, our ethos, it's a small town, it's a place that people come to for an experience. Being in the mountains of California, it's a different kind of experience. They're hiking, they're fishing, they're skiing, they're whatever people are doing. And so I want to embrace everything that we have available to us. So you'll never see us do like an agave spirit, right? There's no agave that grows in the mountains of California. That's not something that grows up here. But we do have barley. We do have a lot of wineries around us. So one of the reasons we work with wine and wine casks is because it's a natural resource that they have, we have right down the road. So when we talk about cask finishes, and you'll see the different varietals of wine we finish in, or port, or whatever it is, we're super fortunate that we have relationships with local wineries that are about 30 minutes away or less. And they literally will call us the day they're going to dump those wine barrels. And we go get them the same day. And then we're filling them generally within 24 to 48 hours. So we're talking super fresh. It's a natural resource for us here. They're getting ready to throw away wine barrels. It's something that we can use. But the story behind every bottle is we want people to come away with a sense of place, that they visited this place or they got a bottle from this place, and it reflects where we are. So the local wine casks, the barley that's as local as we can get it. We with our single malt, one of the things we do is we open air ferment. So we have a giant fermenter that's a stainless steel fermenter that holds something, well, not giant. There's bigger distilleries than us for sure, but it holds 1,800 gallons, and for us that feels pretty big. But it's open air, it's open top, so it's not a controlled fermentation. We don't heat it or cool it. So depending on the time of year, the length of the fermentation, the characteristics of the fermentation are going to be different. And then we have like a big garage door in the warehouse where this thing sits, and we'll open the garage doors as much as possible while it's fermenting in order to let the natural environment influence that fermentation. So if the pollen on the pine trees happen to be blooming that week, it probably will infect that fermentation and create some sort of residual character. Can we recreate this? Not necessarily. We probably could in a lab with a bunch of money and controlled stuff, but nobody else can either. And it's something that just feels like the right thing to do to reflect the place we're in. So that's one of the fun things we do. We do some really slow distillations on it. Our cuts on most of our products are very tight. We could get more yield, but we go for the flavors we want instead. And all of that stuff hopefully leads to just a feeling of this place. It's not just a product with a label and a brand. It's hopefully bringing you to the place we live and that we love.
I have to ask, is
Yeah.
everything open fermented, or do you use augment it with yeast that you know you're going to get? Because that's the
Yes.
first time I've heard of that in the whiskey industry. I've heard of that in the beer industry, and I know they're
Yep,
close, but
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, it's actually fairly traditional to do it this way. Uh, like if you go way back to the old days in Kentucky, in the old days in Scotland, and a lot of them are still open tanks at some of the larger places, and that's where they get the kind of sour mash thing from, and some of that. But to answer your question very specifically, the one variable that we don't change, or we haven't changed yet, is our yeast strain. So we do pitch a yeast that's meant for malt whiskey production, and that gets things started. If it's in the summer, it gets things started like a rocket ship, and we're done in like 24 to 36 hours. Like it is fast and intense and hot. And there's a lot of science out there about flavors that can create, that some people say are good, some people say are bad. Um, there's all kinds of things that you can talk about there, but we like to let our environment take over. And then in the winter, it's the opposite. Again, we're not temperature controlling, so it's very important that that wash goes in at a temperature that's warm enough for the yeast to start. And the room it's in could be down in the 40s or even in the 30s, temperature wise. And so you got to get that thing started. And some of those fermentations can last a week or more. And it's just kind of leaning into where we live, which is pretty fun. We haven't played with yeast only because that rabbit hole feels really deep and wide, and we're just scratching the surface of the grains that are available across this country, and all the amazing things that you can do with that, and finishing casks and aging casks, and our elevation. We have a lot to learn about where we live and where this thing is. There's no data around making whiskey long term in the Sierra Nevada mountains. So it's a pretty fun thing to play with. But yeah. And then so the Discovery series, that's exactly what it is. It's us on our journey of discovering what we can do with American single malt whiskey. And some batches are larger than others. They're drastically different from each other because we're always playing with grains and the various things we can do. So that's a fun one. And then we've also got things in the barrel that are destined to be this Singularity series. So the Singularity series you could think of as the cast strength sort of series.
I'm gonna try to zoom in on that. So this is the pour number 2, Singularity. Batch number 1, you guys are having the very first batch of Singularity, which was a port cask finish. And yeah, I'll let you continue. Sorry.
Yeah, and
The color on this
it's
one is wow.
Isn't that, I mean,
it's
look at that.
insane.
Like, I know it's
Clearly a
kind of dark in
podcast
here, but
finish. Yeah.
yeah, and in fact, to just compare the bottles. So Discovery, obviously, it's fairly low down, but yeah, I mean the contrast of color. It goes without saying. I always say, but we should say we never add color. We don't chill filter, so all of our whiskeys we have a natural presentation. But yeah, this color is crazy good on the Singularity.
Yeah, and so we have people like cast strength stuff, people like single barrel stuff. This is not single barrel, but it is cast strength. And so our hope for Singularity is just it's the ones we come across that we really love, or there are also things we're doing that are very specific for this line. Like some of the releases coming out in this line are uh are single grain distillations from single farms, everything done the same, everything aged the same. The only difference is literally the way the maltster roasts the grains. So the project there and the fun there, kind of took a page from like Waterford, if any of you guys are familiar with what they were doing. Much smaller scale, a lot less money, obviously, what we're doing. But the idea is to have the only variable with some of those ones that are going to come out be that grain, to just show people that the way the grain is treated can impact the flavor pretty greatly. Now this one is a wild one. So on the back here we've got the 3 grains or 3 malts from Admiral Maltings, California Spirit, Kilnsmith, Maiden Voyage. Kilnsmith again is that dark roasted one, and there's 21% of this is that. So it's a pretty high percentage to do that. And then we have some Great Western. One is Pure California, which is a California grown grain, and then a Pilsen, Superior Pilsen. And then the aging on this was an ex single malt barrel and an ex or sorry, and a new charred
Yeah.
barrel. The reason for the port finishing cask was twofold. We have these local folks that we work with who are awesome. They make amazing wines. And one of the gentlemen contacted me and said, "Hey, I'm about to bottle this 11-year-old port. Do you want this barrel?" About the same time, and the way the universe works, it kind of tends to give you the things you need. At about the same time, we were sampling these barrels, trying to figure out what this release was going to be. It wasn't the singularity product that we had envisioned, but it was good. And then the light bulb just went off. I was like, let's throw it in that crazy port barrel and see what happens. And what happened was some pretty wild flavor and pretty wild aromas. So it sold out right away. It was our first batch, and we're very fortunate to have a group of people who are super passionate about what we're doing. So whenever we do something new, it tends to fly pretty quickly. So unfortunately, I don't have a bottle of this that I can open because somebody else owns this bottle.
Guys, I literally had to raid this from my whiskey club shelf. Someone is going to come in the next week and pick this up because I was like, I don't have any bottles of this. And I thought I had it at home and no
Yeah.
bottles. So you all hopefully get to enjoy nosing this and sipping it because it was just a great dram for us. It was just
Yeah.
totally unique, which is what we wanted.
And it also highlights to me, so it's 108 proof, right? So it's cask strength. We barrel our single malt specifically at a little lower proof, sometimes 110, sometimes 112, somewhere around there. Um, and but hopefully it highlights too that my theory about whiskey is that nothing's precious and that it should be consumed. And so we're not like squirreling away a bunch of whiskey. When the batches are
We
gone, they're
probably
gone.
should.
And we might not even have a bottle. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. But I just love the color on this. I think the color is pretty phenomenal. So it's a fun one.
Wow, that's so interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of it was just like freshly made caramel just oozing on my
Mhm.
tongue. It was all the things.
Good.
And looking at the percentages, it's 65-35. So is that two barrels of the ex-American single malt, and I'm guessing your own single malt, and then one barrel of the new American toast? Is that kind of how it worked out?
Yes,
Correct.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Wow, small
Yep.
batch.
Yep.
And then
Very.
how were you able to finish three barrels in a port? Did you do a portion of it in the port and see how much of it
No,
influenced?
we had several port barrels that
Yeah.
we got 5 or 6 actually. So
Oh,
we've
very
done
cool.
some other things with them too.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's when things like that come up, I mean, wine finishing and any finishing really, but what we're looking for is I actually want a barrel that doesn't have much life left in it for the winemaker.
Yeah.
I want it to have been used over and over, and so it's just the staves are soaked with red wine or port or whatever it is. I don't, we don't need more oak. We really want that wine character. So when we get a chance to get special barrels like this, I'm like, yes, I'll take them. And I do this a lot, and Bonnie can attest to it. If I think something's going to be fun from a sort of my own personal loving of whiskey perspective, we'll just do it and figure out what we're going to do with it later.
There's
It's an
no such thing
advantage
as
of,
bad
of
whiskey. Either age it longer or
Yeah.
blend it with something.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
our theory too is on the front end, if we're doing our best to make a really high quality new make and product, even if the flavor profile is not something everybody will enjoy, hopefully it's high quality. And so you can at least recognize that we've done our very best to make a quality product. Doesn't necessarily mean it'll be everybody's flavor profile that they enjoy, but hopefully at least the effort comes through.
No, this is
Um,
great. Definitely tastes like quality.
Yeah, it's
Good.
it's it's a fun one. And again, to your point of small batch, like one of the advantages of being the size we are is we are, basically paying attention to every single barrel. We know what's going on with all of our barrels in the barrel warehouse. And being so laser focused on just the American single malt from a grain to glass perspective allows us um to really focus in on it and know what everything's doing and keep tabs on it. And that's our vision. Like we don't plan on growing to the size where we can't do that. And where batches are too big. Um, it's just more fun this way. If we do grow that big, then somebody else will have to run this thing because that doesn't sound as much fun as knowing all the barrels and smelling all the barrels and tasting all the barrels.
For sure. Um, Question for you, since you have those wine relationships, and we try to strong arm every brand we can into this. When your partners are dumping that port, let's say that like for this, can you ask them for 20 bottles for the so when we join your club, we can get a combination of like try this whiskey, this is what it was aged
And
in,
that would
see
be
if you taste the
amazing.
port.
Yeah, so we've done some stuff with breweries like that actually.
Yeah.
So we have our third batch of Discovery was a partnership with a large brewery in the valley called Dust Bowl Brewing. They have a gold medal winning porter that was awesome, and we do a lot of work with them, and have helped them open their own distillery and stuff. They're just really good people. But they had this wonderful porter, and so we did a collaboration with them that's turned into an annual collaboration where they brew the porter without hops because I don't care what anybody tells you. If there's hops in your whiskey, it's not whiskey. But
Well, it is not literally.
it's literally not, but some people decide to label it that way, whatever.
We've
But
done beer schnapps, by the way.
yeah,
Calling out to, Das Hinterhaus, we had to do a beer schnapps, which is quite literally distilled beer with hops. And
That
we
sounds
love them.
amazing. And look,
It's awesome.
I've
It's
had
actually
distilled IPAs and they're beautiful
it's
a lot of the time.
fantastic.
But
But
TTB says,
only all the geeks appreciate it. Like 95% of the people, like they just
yeah,
don't
they're
get
like, what
it.
the
They're
hell is
like, I
that?
can't wrap my head around this. I'm like, it's distilled beer. Like just
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Brewers are fun to work with too, just a little aside, because they give you a lot of beer.
Yeah.
So
We
they're always
get a
showing
lot of
up with,
beer.
cases of beer or
Yeah.
whatever. So that's fun. But yeah, we hatched this idea with them to take that porter, have them brew it without any hops, and then turn it into a single malt. And that was phenomenal. And people did have the opportunity then to buy that bottle of single malt alongside the porter release so that they could sort of see if they could find the lineage in the flavor. And it's surprising you can. I think you have to be a fairly sophisticated
Palette.
whiskey palate in
Mhm.
order to find it. But it's definitely there. And the porter grains are these dark, rich malts, right? And so that stuff does come through. It even in the new make, it's there. So that's a really fun one. But yes, to your point with the wine too, we have another collaboration we've done with the winery on our bourbons. They're all wine finished, and we'll get into that. But we did a finished bourbon it's a red blend from a local winery that I really love, and we did the same percentages of finishing barrels and varietals as that blend, and then we released the two concurrently so people could buy this blend and the whiskey or the bourbon that sat in those same barrels in the same percentages,
Yeah.
which was a really fun thing to do. The other thing I always tell people is if you want to know what your favorite bourbon would taste like finished in your favorite wine barrel, just take some drops from your favorite wine and put it in the bourbon. It's literally almost the same thing. You don't have the maybe 6 months to a year of aging on there, but it's very close approximation to know what that favorite Barbera that you like is going to taste like with your favorite bottle of Woodford or whatever it is that you like. So that's really fun.
Love it.
Anything else in the single malt world that anybody has? We do have we've got three. So you've got the white and the blue, and obviously there's a red, not obviously, but there's going to be red, white, and blue label. So the red will be our more of our flagship, and that's just continuing to age and build stock. And that'll be a fun one. That'll be a blend of new barrels, ex bourbon barrels, and ex brandy barrels, because we also make a lot of brandy. So that'll be a really fun one that we've got some fun plans for probably 18 months to 2 years, we might be to the point where we have some stuff that we're ready to start releasing under that label. And then beyond that, who knows what we're going to do? We're just constantly coming up with ideas. Our son is the one who's the most knowledgeable about barley and distillation of barley and fermentation of barley. And so he's gone way down the rabbit hole. He's what is he, 25 now? And he's really taken the reins on it. So I have no doubt that he's got a catalog of things that he wants to do once I take the reins off and start letting him do the things he wants to do.
Sounds
What's your
like fun.
capacity? How much are you guys distilling? How many barrels are you laying down?
Yeah, so this last summer, because we've grown really fast, and the wine distillation takes up a good part of our year.
And
And we
wine
have to.
distillation, you're saying you're making brandy?
So we do brandy, but actually we distill our vodka, our gins, and most of our liqueurs from wine.
Oh,
So
wow.
we buy red wine local to us. That I say usually, I mean, the winemaker, it doesn't have to be bad wine. In fact, we look for decent wine, but the winemaker does not intend to bottle it. And sadly, it's usually an inventory issue for the
Mhm,
winemaker. They're just sitting on too much inventory, so it
mhm.
doesn't make sense for them to bottle more. So they're happy to unload it, and we're happy to buy it from them. So it just fits in this whole ecosystem of of where we are in California and this moment in time. But yeah, as Nate said, we have a column still, a 20 plate column still. But the amount of gins and vodka we produce really does take up a lot of time.
Yeah, like to give you an idea, the capacity of that original still that we do the gin and vodka and our original distillations on is about 110 gallons. So not large by any means. Um, Also not the smallest I've seen in
Yeah.
distilleries, but definitely undersized for what we're doing right now. Last year we put 15,000 gallons worth of wine through it. Um, so that's pretty much 2 shifts a day, 6 days a week. So we're in the process right now of installing an expansion in our facility, and we got a 2,000 liter copper pot still that will be dedicated mostly to brandy distillations because copper pot stills make some phenomenal brandy and American single malt. So to answer your question, that's a long way of saying we put down as many barrels as we could in the small window we had last year, which was like 35.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're talking not
Under
many.
50 so far.
And we
Yeah.
are yeah, we're very fortunate that people are interested in what we're doing. And so, when we started 5 years ago and I did my first, let's say 5 or 10 barrels of single malt at the time, I thought like this is so much. There's no way it's going to be way too much. And as things are aging, it's definitely very clear that we didn't make nearly enough. Um, but that's okay. It's better than making too much, I guess. And it is what it is. We're not, we don't have massive funding. Uh, we're not in debt to banks or anything like that. And we're just growing at the rate that we're supposed to. And it'll end up where it's supposed to be. Um, but yeah, the single malt is definitely a passion thing. And quite honestly, I see a lot of people being interested in it that I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. But when we come out with a single malt batch, it will give our bourbon a run for its money for the first several weeks we release it, which is crazy
Yeah.
because bourbon people come in off the street and ask for bourbon, right? They have no intention of, they don't even know what American single malt is, right?
Oh,
Uh,
sadly.
so it's really interesting to see that when people come in and have an experience and can taste things in a lineup that they're enjoying it and they're interested in having it.
I wanted
All
to
right.
mention that
Please.
as I was pouring everything, I really like your label and bottle design.
Thank
It's
you.
super cool, that little see-through to the back and the little
Yep.
detail. That's really clever, and it just made your bottles look super special.
Thank you, Jane. That is one of the silver linings of opening during COVID, because had COVID not happened, we'd probably we probably would have saved some money and not have done the back labels that are double sided, and some other kind of things. But because of COVID, we were not allowed by state law to pour any of our spirits when we opened our doors. So we opened in the fall of 2020, and we couldn't pour a single ounce for anyone that walked through our distillery doors. And we saw that coming in the lead up to opening. So we kind of went back to the drawing board with the graphic artist that we've used since day one. He's an independent graphic designer. He happens to live in the Sierra Nevada, but he worked for SF Weekly for years. And I said to him, Justin, like, okay, we're going to have to spend a little more money because we're asking people to buy a product that they have not been able to try. And they have no idea who we are. We're brand new. So the label, the whole packaging is really kind of taken a life of its own. So I'm glad that it's distinguished in some fun ways. It's unusual for sure. All right. Now, unless I don't want to hurry anyone, but I'm respecting everyone's time. I don't want to take up all evening
I
for
think we
you.
just don't want to move on from the single malts. I think everybody's fighting.
I
I know
know,
Jane doesn't want to drink rye.
which is which is completely, we can relate to that.
It's really fun too, because like the first one, I'm a huge fan of like lighter biscuity single malts.
Mhm.
Just personally, that's the palate that I have, and it's fun to have a crew of, it's myself and Bonnie, our son Keegan, and his wife Alex. We're sort of the core four who have a lot of input on what we're doing with barrel aging and all the products. And everybody has their own preferences. So it's really fun when we get in these conversations around what we should do and how we should do things. One of the first releases of single malt we did, because I was the one who got to decide, was a very light, no finish, just ex bourbon aged, very light biscuity, almost like Glenmorangie style single malt. And that was really the goal. I mean, it's really interesting what you can do if you have a goal and you have an idea of maybe how to get there. And so it was really fun it's been really fun to sometimes have a goal like that, that's like, I want to try to make something that tastes similar to this, and see if you can pull it off without aging it for 10 or 20 years, because in our elevation and no climate control, and in California, it's not going to make it to 10 years. Like there's so much evaporation and angel share at our location that you wouldn't have enough left in the bottle or the barrel after 10 years you couldn't make money on it. And so it's really interesting to see how you can work with your own climate. And of course, tons of other people have done this, for quite a number of years before us. I think of Balcones, right? They had to figure out how to do things in their location and what it was going to do and what the unique terroir and impact was going to be. And it's just really fun to work with that stuff. So
All right.
I'm just going to tell you the story real quick, and then you can introduce. But so being in the industry is kind of fun because you get emails from other industry people when they have things to sell, or interesting things that came up. And I got an email from somebody, one of these bulk suppliers, that said, "Hey, we've got a little bit, 4 barrels
Show you
of,
guys this.
I think it was 5 barrels actually originally, of this 18-year-old Canadian rye. Are you interested?" And I said, "Yes, send it, like I want it." And then it came, and then Bonnie was like, "What the hell are you
What are we
doing?
doing with
We
this?
don't even have a rye. What do you wait?" And I'm like, "I don't know what we're gonna do with it, but it just sounded too cool. I had to have it." Um, and so yeah, about that same time, we do a lot of work with breweries and wineries, a lot of cask exchanges and other fun things like that. And we had lent out some bourbon barrels to a brewery that was doing a bourbon barrel aged stout. And I say lent because I said, once you're done, because I knew they were going to do an extended aging on this stout, I want those barrels back. And I didn't know what we were going to do with them. But again, it all came together at the same time. And I thought to myself, let's throw this really expensive, old, rare
Rye
Canadian
whiskey.
rye into these stout beer barrels and see what happens.
Yeah. So the third pour is what we call Trapper's Oath. This is the fourth and the final batch that we have planned. 21-year age statement, distilled in Quebec. And we brought it to the Sierra Nevada to our distillery 4.5 years ago. It had been aging in neutral barrels for 17 years. And that was when Nate decided, let's put him in these ex-bourbon slash stout barrels and really just see what happens with it. So it spent 4 years in the bourbon stout barrels. The color is crazy to me. I mean, it has just such an orange kind of tinge to it. But Trapper's Oath has become something that yeah, we certainly never, did it wasn't in the plan. Let's do an independent bottling of an extra age Canadian rye. And yet when the opportunity came along, I am really glad that he took it. It is just barely a rye. So the mash bill on this was just 53% rye and 47% corn.
Mm.
So not surprisingly, a lot of our bourbon lovers were really kind of gravitated towards this, even though it's quite different than bourbon.
It's super crazy after tasting that single malt.
Yeah,
It's super
it would
crazy
be a weird one after
normally.
that.
I just get a lot of very strange notes from it.
Yeah,
And some of that's
you
the
definitely
finishing
have to
bill.
clear your palate. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
it's
yes,
jarring. But what, tell
yes.
me again what the first 17 years, how were they aged?
Neutral oak in the Hudson Bay of Quebec, Canada.
Yeah, so
So,
they have their Canadian rye doesn't have to be a new charred oak.
Yeah.
So that's why you have that nice light kind of color to it. And it really was like a thing of, just sort of trying to make something accessible that I had access to other people that are patrons who are interested in things like this, and so it was like, yeah, let's get that. And we did ask them too. I mean, I decided to do it, but we have it's called the Alpine Club. We've got a club of people. And we asked them, like, is this something that would be interesting to you? And here's where we think we could end up with the price point. And so we've tried to do everything we can to make these things accessible, and hopefully they're not precious either, right? I want people to share these things with other people. If you have a $800 bottle of 21-year-old rye whiskey, you're probably not going to share it as willingly as you are if it's a hundred and something dollars. So we don't need to try to get rich on it. We just need to make the wheels turn. So really bizarre notes on I get a lot of like kind of dusty candy notes almost, or
mhm.
like sour candy.
To me, like the stout barrels really just shine through on this. Um, I would always say like those dark chocolate covered espresso beans, that's a note that I get a lot. You get that kind of almost a little bit of a tannin going on from like a coffee bean that I attribute directly to the stout barrels. So yeah, it was definitely just a fun, completely random independent bottling that we didn't see coming. And sadly, yeah, this will be the final batch.
But I
I
think that's also kind of I don't know,
a
nothing
fun
lasts
thing.
forever. And
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
it's kind of a fun thing. And maybe one day another 18 to 21-year-old rye will come across our desk and we'll reprise this thing. But
yeah.
I get so this was a long finish on this batch. This was a 3-year finish in that stout beer barrel, which is a long time. So I do get a lot of that, the hop kind of citrus bitter kind of thing coming through, and that's that stout. It wasn't a soft stout, it was more of like your bitter stout that these guys made. So I get a
But
lot of that. It's definitely very unique.
but a lot of times with the stout finishes, um, it's like the first note and it's the boldest note. But
Mm,
here, the stout is in there, but it's a note out of all this other stuff that's happening. It's
good,
really amazing.
good.
Is this still available?
This is, and good news, it's actually, you can order it on our website for shipping to 41 states. So I don't know, Kate, are you in California or are you elsewhere? Yeah, you could go onto our website and get this bad boy right now. I would expect that it will last for maybe 3 more months. I mean, we'll see how the holiday season goes. But I'm hoping that it gets us through the holiday season and maybe into Q1 of next year.
Yeah, and we should say on the single malt side, the Discovery Batch 5 that we had, that one we still do have some of that.
Yeah, the very
Uh,
first pour is also on our website
yeah.
right now. Thank you for asking.
And
All
you can
right.
also
I'm
find
gonna,
some of
I
these.
just wanted to say that this is number 7 on my list of ryes I don't hate.
Wow. Yes.
I'm not a huge rye person either.
I'm not, I don't like the grain. It's nothing against anyone's whiskey.
Yeah.
I don't like rye. I don't like
Yeah.
rye red. I don't like rye anything. I have a notebook that I'm keeping track of the
It's
few.
awesome.
And then you said it's the last one. And I'm like, of course it is. I like
Yeah.
orphan barrels apparently. But
Yeah.
I really like the notes on this. It's really quite interesting. And I think the extra aging in the stout probably is what kicks it for me. Plus the fact that it's barley rye probably makes
Yes.
it better for me. I don't know about
Yes.
anybody else, but I particularly am fond of it. And I figure if I like a rye, I have to tell people. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, and it's, with a lot of like some of the stuff a lot of the stuff we do, I feel like we're more like stewards of it. Like we're passing these things on and hopefully we're treating it in such a way that we're not ruining it as it's coming through our hands and hopefully we're
Well, we're
enhancing it.
enhancing it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean we're stewards of like the grains, we're stewards of the way we do these things and it's really just passing it through and yeah, some people are gonna like the flavors and some people aren't. This rye is a strange thing anyways, because I think there is that dividing thing. Not everybody likes rye. And then also there's such a huge variety of rye that I feel like a lot of people have not tasted the full spectrum. I think a lot of you probably have, I'm sure, but the average person probably thinks rye tastes like this. Like it's a very narrow perception of rye that comes from one distillery and is bottled under a bunch of different labels. But there's so much that could be done with rye. It's really interesting. That said, we're not going to do this again, I don't think, but it was fun.
To be fair, Canadian rye doesn't even have to have rye grain in it. So
I know.
It's crazy. It's
It's
so stupid.
well, rye is. I used to have a really good friend who was a Canadian guy who was an NHL referee actually, and he used to talk about drinking rye, but he wasn't even talking about drinking rye. He was talking about drinking whiskey. It's yeah. So even the vernacular of what they call rye is not rye. A lot of times it's
I'm
very
sure you guys saw the news article that apparently 20 years ago the EU signed an agreement with Canada, and so now Canada's enforcing it, where anything called rye has to be made in Canada only.
that's
Oh,
And so
amazing.
like there's like Danish distilleries that make a rye whiskey that
oh,
now cannot label it as a rye whiskey because rye
yeah.
whiskey must come from Canada. Based on
Wow.
this
That's
agreement,
amazing.
it's like, and every distillery is
Wow.
like, "Are you joking?" But like
Wow.
25 years
Yeah.
ago, there weren't distilleries in Europe making
Sure.
it, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
silly thing. It's so
Oh my
strange.
gosh. Oh
And some
my
of the
gosh.
vernacular stuff is really interesting, like single grain, single grain Scotch whiskey,
Yeah,
um, is not what it
Thank you.
sounds like to me. Like we have single grain distillations we've done, and it's literally a single grain,
Yeah.
right? And like, but you try to label it single grain and it can confuse some people or it might not, it's just like straight whiskey. The average consumer that comes into our distillery doesn't know the laws around bourbon and tries to tell us that it can't be made anywhere but Kentucky, and then B they don't know what straight is, and that's, I don't judge anybody for that, but some of these terms that we're used to are just very not clear what they
Straight
actually
bourbon
mean.
is bourbon that only loves new American oak, right? That's
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
if
Yeah.
it loves
Yep.
used oak, it can't be straight bourbon.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Should we get on to bourbon? Do we have bourbon lovers here?
We do. Let's do it.
All right.
Funny enough,
So,
to your point about people asking for bourbon by name, I
yeah,
worked a whiskey I worked at a festival this last weekend, and I was pouring for a single malt brand. And everyone that walked
awesome.
up, I was like, "Oh, I have single malt Scotch, I have single malt Irish, whatever you like."
Yeah.
They'd listen to my spiel and they go, "Okay, pour me the bourbon."
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it can be an uphill battle. I feel like I feel very fortunate because I spend a lot of time with our patrons in our distillery. We have a tasting room and a little cocktail lounge. And so I have a captive audience where I literally just get to educate them. And my staff is
Whether they like
amazing.
it or not, the
Yeah, whether they
education.
want to know about it or not, they're gonna learn about it. But yeah, like at large, consumers at large really aren't educated. And, I mean, that again, that goes to the history of the craft. And, it was really most bottles were made by just a handful of distillers who could choose what to share and what not to share with
And
people.
not to get too far
So,
down the thing, but I have this theory that they would like it to stay that way. I don't think they necessarily want people asking questions about where the ingredients come from or what quality of grains are being used, or these sorts of things. And some of that, like, it's not shocking that I'm saying it, because I've heard big craft or big distillers say that in articles, say things like it doesn't matter what quality of grain you use, you're just distilling it and aging it. So I think
yeah.
there is some of that too. But yeah, there's an awakening, and people are starting to ask the question of what's in this whiskey? Where do these grains come from? Why is it unique? Why should I know about it?
Okay. So tasting pour number 4, we call this the Calaveras cask finish bourbon. It is a blended bourbon always. And you all have batch number 22, which is also what I have in the bottle right now. So Calaveras refers, and I think we would rename this product if we could do it all again, but Calaveras refers to our county. Our distillery is in the county of Calaveras, and we are using wine barrels for finishing every batch of this bourbon from Calaveras County. So we had to go back and forth with the TTB a ton on this particular label 5 years ago
So,
when
like,
we
what's
when
a
we started.
Calaveras cask?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So it is a little confusing, but lo and behold, we are left with this. It is, at our distillery, I mean, this is kind of our what I would describe as the
and
easy
I
sipping.
saw a question. So it is
Oh,
the
please.
22
It is,
is the
yep.
batch we're having,
Yep.
that's the 92 proof bourbon.
Yep.
So it's our blended bourbon, not the single barrel cask strength.
Correct. So you can see the color on this again, no color added. But this particular batch, we'll get into the finishing cast that we used for this one. This was a blend of two different bourbons. One was MGP and it was very high. In fact, I believe it was
Said
yeah,
99 corn.
99% corn MGP. We blended that with a Bardstown bourbon that was 70 corn, 22 rye, and 8% malted barley. So, what we're usually doing with these batches are blending at least two different bourbons together. The goal in the beginning was to pay the bills. Like we were saying early on, I mean, we knew that we wanted to be producing American single malt, but we also knew that consumers would demand bourbon. And so if we were going to be sourcing bourbon, how can we put our stamp on it? One is in the aging. Now we do all of the aging entirely in-house. So our 4,500 foot elevation, every single barrel is aged entirely at Hinterhaus now. And this particular one was aged between 46 and 52 months, which is pretty much around standard for us for this product. Number two, the wine barrel finishing. And again, outreaching to our local vintners in our county for this product to purchase wine barrels after they have been spent from the winemaker's perspective. This batch features wine barrels of ex Barbera and ex Malbec. Now, those are two very robust red wines, and they're not things that I usually see for finishing barrels. Although I don't know why. I mean, I think they're fantastic for finishing barrels. But these are two varietals that we actually see quite a bit in the Sierra foothills because we have a very hot, dry growing season here. So the big robust reds seem to be the preference among growers and winemakers.
Yeah, and again, the thing when with this was for me, again, if we can't pay our bills and pay our employees and keep the lights on, then we don't get to make any single malt. We don't get to do any of this stuff. So, having a bourbon and being in a vacation town, there's a big percentage of people that they don't know anything about spirits, but everybody knows somebody who likes bourbon. And so that's going to be the one they ask for. And the process for making bourbon is not conducive to the equipment we have for making our American single malt because we made that decision up front to buy certain equipment because we wanted to make our American single malt in a specific way. So it's not really conducive for us to even make bourbon. So then, you go down the thing and you're like, well, let's reach out and find bourbons from places we really respect. And in the beginning, the only people who would call us back was MGP, right? And so we ended up buying, what we thought was a lot. It wasn't. It was just a handful of barrels. But buying some bourbon from them, and then a little bit of like again pulling back the curtain of what it's like. They decided at one point that they didn't want to deal with small people anymore. So at that point, we revisited, and this was very early on in our journey. We revisited the concept of, well, maybe we do start moving it around. And so I started calling around to other people I respect what they do. And MGP makes great juice. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to talk to them in the first place. But we ended up getting access to and finding it super easy to actually get access to really unique mash bills and interesting projects that these places have done. So, we've worked with MGP, of course,
And Bardstown.
Bardstown, Middle West, Speakeasy out of Nashville, a bunch of different places. So basically, if we run across anything that we think is seems like they're making quality stuff when we really enjoy it. The way the process works is I pick up the phone, I call them, and I have a conversation with somebody around what's like a weird thing you did in the past that you just have sitting there in the warehouse that nobody has really put out, or if they have put it out, they haven't been transparent around what the mash bill is. So we've even done that with MGP. They've got a bunch of stuff laying around that nobody's ever heard of. So they did a 51 blue corn, 49 malted barley mash bill that I
Yeah.
thought was super interesting. And I was
Bloody
like,
Butcher.
yeah,
They had a Bloody Butcher corn bourbon.
that was from Bardstown. We did a
Yeah.
Bloody Butcher corn bourbon. They did again like a little project either for themselves or for somebody else, and they had these barrels laying around that doesn't fit in because most of the brands they want consistency, right? So they have their mash bill they like. You could probably guess what that mash bill is for most of them. It's kind of the same. But we wanted to do different things. So again, being a fan of it, I think one of our privileges is being able to call up these places, get interesting things, do some fun stuff with it, with the finishes that I think are creative and give us enjoyment, and then pass it on to our patrons, and they get to taste things that they might not otherwise. So with the
So
wine finishes, typically it's a single. Sorry, go ahead, Kate.
I have a marketing idea for you.
Yes.
Okay, so since you're naming these things Calaveras,
Mhm.
and this would be, and you're in California, you have a lot of bourbon drinkers, uh, but you also have a lot of people who speak Spanish, right?
Yeah.
They know what Calaveras means.
Yep.
And we just went through Halloween. So of course this comes into my
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
November 1st.
Yep.
So instead of those, I don't know, are those circles on the bottle? Are they,
They
They're
are
supposed to be like wood
they're
rounds.
wood
they're
rounds.
wood, right? Okay,
Yes.
change
To
those.
skulls.
Yeah. And then age it in a tequila barrel.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
Yep.
boom, you're going to open your market up to all sorts of people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. So for those that don't know, Calaveras means skull.
Yeah.
And so Calaveras River is one of the rivers that runs through our county. And the reason it's named Calaveras is that there were skulls found in the river, like a lot of skulls. And they
During the
would,
gold rush.
yeah, during the gold rush, the Native Americans would bury their dead upriver, and then eventually the skulls would end up down the river. So there were a whole ton of skulls. So I even like River of Skulls, like that's a pretty metal pretty metal name. So yes, I agree, and it'd be
Yeah, it's
fun to
fun.
have some artwork that's like the Day of the Dead,
Right.
Yeah.
sugar skull masks.
Mhm.
That would
Yeah.
be pretty cool too.
And
Yep.
then you also said something about, I don't know, bloody something.
Bloody
Bloody Butcher
Butcher.
corn.
Bloody
Bloody
Butcher.
Butcher
I'm like, oh
corn.
my God, that would have been perfect for this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
I'm
So
full
That
of
when
was
we
good
cool.
started
ideas.
That was
like
Call
cool.
me anytime.
Yeah, I
yeah,
love it.
so it's really interesting though when like when we started, the reason we did Calaveras is our vision was that this was going to be like a mom and pop thing where Bonnie and I are working in the tasting room, maybe some people stop in and say hello, and so we wanted it to be like hyper local naming, and it's grown way
Yeah.
beyond that scale.
Yeah.
So now we do, like, I've even thought just California cask would go much better in Colorado than like Calaveras. People also, yeah, we're going down rabbit hole, but people read it and they think it's Calvados cask, and like
Yeah.
they don't actually read the letters properly, and
Well, or it's kind of easy. It
it's
does
easy
look
to
like Calvados,
see.
which
Oh,
I feel
I
like we need
totally
to do a
dyslexic it.
Calvados.
I was thinking Calcaveras, which is like a type of wine, I think, and Calvados. And I
Yes,
was like,
yes,
Yeah,
what the hell is a
yes.
Calvados wine
yeah.
cask? I don't
So
know what
if
that
Yeah,
you,
is.
yeah, and if you
Yeah,
come
you
and
got to
visit
change
our
it to the
dis,
River of Skulls, I think.
yeah.
yes,
Yeah, go for
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's really actually really, I don't know, there's something very poetic about that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
go
So
for it.
we've so it's interesting. The fun thing has been, again, going out and procuring all these different mash bills from people that I think are making really quality stuff, um and getting to taste it ourselves, but then share it with people. But then the other piece of it, and obviously that keeps us busy, so we're not just doing the same thing every day. And we are, like, physically, I mean, it's a small enough scale where we are, when we're creating blends, it's a day of tasting casks and deciding which barrels we're going to put into this blend, and then deciding which, and we do this seasonally because barrels become available for finishing seasonally, and then deciding which varietals of wine are going to pair with those. So typically, what we've done is, most typically it'll be a single varietal of wine that a batch is finished in. This one we did two varietals because the 99 corn needed something more
Tangy.
than just a Barbera. So that's where the Malbec came in. But the other really fun thing, and just, we're kind of nerds about it again, is we've now done 17 or 18 different single varietal red wine finishes. So we're talking like Petit Verdot, Petit Syrah, Malbec, the list goes on and on. Sauvignon, whatever it's called,
Cab Sauv.
Cab,
Yeah, yeah.
Cabernet Sauvignon, like, just all the different things. So the number of variables and inputs has been really fun to play with. And we're still only 5 years old. So you can imagine how much we're learning about which bourbons pair with which single varietals. And it's just a really fun thing as a whiskey nerd to be able to play with that stuff at a scale of multiple barrels.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was gonna. So the one of the reasons I was asking your production size when we were talking about the single malts was to that point of like, have you considered doing a single varietal of barley, and then like all the different varietals of separate casks, and then seeing how they. But obviously, if you're making 30 casks a year, that's a non-starter. But if you're able to do that
Yeah.
with bourbon, it's we had Pat Heist on, right? To your point
Yeah.
of not messing with the the yeast. And
Yeah.
we asked him, like, dude, you own a thing where you sell yeast to people. Like you're a physicist, right? Or whatever he is, chemist. And we're like, why don't you mess around with the yeast? And his response was, well, we want to find our flagship product first. If we do too many variables, we don't know what like changed it. And so like I totally hear all of that in tonight's conversation too. And but it's fun. You went full circle. You totally came right back to it and said, "Hey, we're doing single varietals just to see what happens." Have you had
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
wines that have been amazing that were better than you expected, and any that were like, "This needs to get blended. This didn't work."
I really enjoy Barbera.
Yeah.
I think some of that again is the sense of place because Barbera is a really popular grape and grows really well at many of the wineries around us. So it also has this feeling of like if you go to Murphy's, which is the town before us, there's a dozen or more tasting rooms, and you're going to run into Barbera in almost all of them. So then you come up to us, and it's a natural, like I'm in this place, and this is the resource of this place. But also, I really like what it does with the wine. Um, I'm not a huge fan of Merlot generally. Um,
And I didn't really care for it we finished in Merlot and
yeah, it's just very grapey. I mean,
yeah, it's fruity. Yeah.
it can be very fruity. Sorry if you guys can hear our dog. She's running around
Yeah.
having a great
We
time.
have a
But
little dog in the background who's like flipping out right now, so I apologize.
I'm sad we
But
don't hear the dog. I want to hear the dog.
but
He's clippity clopping.
I understand what you're saying about Merlot. You know, it's Merlot is that safe wine that you
Right.
pour, and it's everybody can tolerate it, right?
Right.
yeah,
It's not awesome, but it's
Right.
not. No one's gonna hate it, right? No one's
Right.
gonna
yeah,
hate it out.
Yes.
But that's a relatively boring wine, and that's not going to give you something for the whiskey.
yeah,
So I get it. I
Yeah.
get why Merlot would not
yeah. And it's really fun. So there's a microsite because we did a special bottling. It was a very small bottling that was a combination of 27 of our first batches or 27 of our batches of from our first 5 years. I could spit it out.
We made like an infinity barrel
Yeah,
with all 27 batches of our bourbon, including like 17 different wine cask varietal
finishes. There were,
finishes.
I think, 16 different
Yeah.
mash bills.
Yeah.
Um,
It's crazy.
and then it was extra aged in that same 11-year port barrel that the single malt you guys tasted was in. Um, not the same barrel, but the same batch. Um, anyways, where I was going with that is it's really fun to read that list. So that website is Hinterhaus Distilling / Infinity, I
Yep.
think.
Yep.
And it will show you the details of what went into that bottle, but it also will list off all of the finishing wine barrels that we've used over the first 5 years. And I get really excited when I see things like Tanat. And I'm like, I've
Mhm.
never heard of Tanat when it showed up at our winery, right? Or our distillery.
Mhm.
And so it was like super fun, it's just really exciting. Um, and I think we're possibly off the deep end of the the way we're doing this and the things we're doing and the transparency of it. So you can look all this stuff up on our website. You find your batch number and you can see what the finishing barrel was, what the age was, what the mash bills, what generally city and state it came from because contracts don't let us say distillery, but you can figure it out pretty easily.
Mhm.
And all that stuff is just a lot of fun. So I don't know how scalable it is, but we're not trying to scale either. We're just trying to do our thing. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, and that is a good point, like we were saying earlier, but every single bottle of our whiskeys will have a batch number. And just going on to our website, hinterhousedistilling.com, you can pull up the whiskey page and you can download the batch listing. And it's just a massive spreadsheet and it's all arranged by product. So you'll see the single malts, you'll see then the bourbons, the single barrel bourbons, And the goal being like what Nate said originally, as consumers, we want, like, I felt like a moron when we started tasting different styles of whiskeys years ago, because I was very used to tasting wine, but I needed to develop vocabulary and make the analogies in the context of whiskey, which was new to me. And it was just frustrating that with wine, I knew the varietal, I knew where it was grown, if it was a single vineyard or estate, grown or whatever. But with whiskeys, like, I had nothing to go on. I was like, well, is this similar to this one, or is it more similar to that one? So just from our own kind of consumer sentiment, we wanted to give everyone that opportunity to like directly see the lineage of every whiskey product we make. And then if you have a couple different batches of bourbon, you can literally like do your own, flight, your own vertical, and compare and contrast those notes. Which I think that makes for a better tasting experience when you have some kind of information on it.
Yeah, and I saw a question about which batch is available on the website for the single barrel. The California, so we have two shipping websites because laws are crazy. There's one that's specific to California. The specific to California one, it'll say what batch it is in the description.
Yep.
The only challenge or one of the challenges with doing this batch system and changing up what we do is we don't control what happens out in the market, and we can't control how distribution flows and which batches end up where. So the nationwide shipping site, we don't know what batch might show up for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But it's been really interesting. What I had hoped would happen is for people who are really into it, they would taste, batch seven, let's say, and they're like, I love batch seven. Then batch seven sells out, and then they find it somewhere and they're super pumped because they found it on a shelf at their local liquor store or whatever 2 years later after it's been sold out. And just about a year ago, I got a text from one of our patrons who was traveling in Denver, and that exact thing happened. He found a bottle of this long sold out batch that he maintains is the best batch we've ever made. And he was so stoked that he found it on shelf in Littleton, Colorado, or wherever he was. So that's kind of the fun thing too, is again, it's fleeting. If it changes and it's gone. And so we always tell people, if you taste that batch and you like it, definitely buy a couple, because it's not going to come back and it's not going to be the same next time, even if we do the same combination of things. It's so small batch. We're talking 5 barrels to make a blend, right? So it's so small batch that even if we did the same exact stuff, it's going to have flavor drift. It's going to taste different. We don't have thousands of barrels to choose from in a warehouse and make a blend that tastes the same every day.
By the way, I don't see the singularity for
Yeah, Singularity, is that on our website now or
no,
not yet? Thank
it's on
you.
your website, but I don't
But
see it.
not the
It's not for sale.
batch. Oh yeah, it's sold out for sale.
It never made it.
Oh,
It
I think
barely
you
made
did.
it past our club.
I
Yes.
think
Sorry
you
about
did.
that,
Yeah,
Kate.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one is a hard one. Our whiskey club, we call it the Alpine Club, basically bought all of it, and then we sold it all in like one weekend at the distillery.
Yeah.
Hopefully, as more of those are released, we will have some that make their way onto our website for shipping, because they're really,
Yeah.
yeah, they're special.
But that's one of the reasons we started the Alpine Club, was for people who are excited about what we're doing, and to give them access to it so that they can, not everybody can go to Arnold every 6 months when we do a release, and stand outside and wait for us to open the door. So it gives people hopefully access that are super interested in it. So it doesn't get just snapped up by the general public who might not care.
Okay, in keeping with the time, you guys, I know we got two more, so I'm like, I feel so bad. How are you all on time? Are we still good? Okay, great. So the next one I'm going to show you is going to look exceedingly similar to the last one. It does have a gold foil top. It has a subtly different color, which might not be very visible on my monitor here. But this is the single barrel reserve bourbon. So it is still called the Calaveras cask, but now it's the Calaveras cask strength single barrel reserve. And as its name suggests, it is a singular barrel. I love this group because a lot of people don't understand what that is, but I'm assuming we all know. For us, our single barrels are genuinely one barrel that we decide to bottle up. And if we don't have a barrel that we particularly like for bottling up, we won't have a single barrel for that particular batch of bourbon. Um, you're going to be doing two different side by sides of different batches of this product. So the first one is going to be batch number 21. And so this will be a nice way to end this and compare and contrast directly these two very different bourbons. Batch 21 was an absolute fan favorite. It is a wheated bourbon. And what's more, it's 45% wheat. So if any of you are wheated fans, I mean, this is as high of a wheat bourbon as I've ever had the pleasure of. This particular one was aged, gosh, I didn't put it on my notes. I know it's on my sheet, so I'll say about 4 years, 46 months. Yep. And then we finished it for 10 months in a Syrah wine barrel from our local county. 121 proof is the strength on that. And typically we're in the 115 to 122. That's very typical of our cask strength. So it's for us a little bit more at the higher end. The bourbon came from MGP. In this case, that 45 liter was an MGP.
Which
Yeah.
is actually one of my favorite mash bills, just period. I really love it. I think it's great stuff. And I don't know why more people that are using MGP aren't just using that instead of the 21 rye. I don't want to offend anybody, but I think this is so good. The 45 is really interesting. The process is when we're doing these blends and tasting through a bunch of barrels, it's my son and I primarily, and then we pull in Bonnie and Alex, his wife Alex, once we get closer and start having opinions, and then they tell us that we're wrong usually. And so but the process will be as we're doing that, we always know in the back of our minds is if either of us runs into a barrel that we want to fight for being a single barrel, we bring it up and we say, like, this, I think could be a good single barrel. And then more discussion ensues. And there's, and sometimes we have to pull in other opinions. And sometimes a single barrel will make it through that is not one I would have chosen, but everybody else really wanted it, or the other way around, right? It's something that I really would have chosen, but my son is like, I don't think so. So it really is kind of like a democratic process of trying to figure out what these are. But to Bonnie's point, what we're not doing is looking at all of our stocks and trying to pull out a certain number of single barrels every year. We're simply identifying the single barrels. And then what happens is they will get paired up with a finishing cask and they'll get extra finishing. So our typical finishing on our standard 92 proof blended bourbon is going to be about 6 months. The finishing on single barrels will go anywhere from 9 months to 18 to 24 months. So we're talking a really long time in a fresh wine barrel. So you tend to get these dark, deep, red kind of hints and a lot of that character of wine influencing the bourbon. And there's something about it that I just love wine finishes. I know there are other people that don't. Everybody has different taste buds. But I feel it can take some bourbons are a little bit intense at 120 proof, and it can really chill them out to the extent that some of them become way too drinkable at 120 proof. Um, So that's kind of what we're doing there. And then if anybody wants to do the compare and
Yeah,
contrast, do you
well,
want to
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about the
yeah.
25 real quick?
Absolutely. So then the other one, and again, this is, hold on one second, you guys. I'm gonna trade my sheet so that I get this all right. I don't want to mix up my batches on you guys. Oh yeah, 4 grain. Okay, so I'm going to show you them both side by side so that you can actually see what was the finishing barrel on this one, Grenache. Well, that makes sense. Okay, so the one that you've just had, batch 21. Now check out the color difference with batch 25. And really, that is like almost exclusively the wine barrel finishing, where batch 21 was in a Syrah wine cask, very big, robust, bold red. Batch 25 of this single barrel reserve was in a Grenache wine barrel. And Grenache is a mid-bodied Rhone varietal, but it is also grown in the Sierra foothills. So you're going to see a real different contrast in the colors and the flavors. Now, batch 25 was a barrel of 4 grain bourbon. So that was really fun. We haven't done a whole lot of 4 grains. In fact, I think this might have been the only single barrel reserve to be a 4 grain that we've put out so far. It was distilled in Columbus, Ohio, and I feel like the distillery name, and you can correct me, was it Haney Family Distillers or Kenny? Kenny. Nate's going to look it up, but if you look up distillery in Columbus, Ohio, I think it's Kenny family.
No, this might be, I think this is Middle West.
Oh, maybe it's Middle West. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to make sure. But Columbus, Ohio, 4 grain. This also came in at 121 proof, just like the last one. So the proof is the same. This one was aged 46 months, which was exactly like the prior batch as well. And then it spent 12 months in the Grenache wine barrel finishing.
Yeah,
So
this
just
is
a fun compare contrast. Thank you. This is indeed from Middle West in Columbus, Ohio.
So I don't know if it's the distiller or if it's the
Yeah.
grain.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's the wine, but there's more funk in the 25.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
I think that I mean I'd be interested. I'm staring at your batch listing right now.
Good, good.
It would be really interesting to taste this one next to, say, number 23, because it's the
Well,
same.
one was 23, Kate. I get these all in my head because now
So
we're up.
it's the same mash bill, the same distiller,
Okay.
and then
Cool. Yep.
one is Syrah versus Tannet,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Right. Yes.
And
Yep.
then it would be really interesting to see the 24 next to the 25, because that's the same everything except for Syrah versus Grenache. But,
Yeah.
but here we have a difference of mash bill as well as difference of the finishing cask.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean this is really fun, but
It is. You
Yeah.
totally like
yeah,
we wanted to geek out like exactly like you're doing.
yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, like this is awesome.
And it's really cool. Obviously,
Good.
all of us are much more down the rabbit hole than the average consumer. It's really interesting when you do see the average consumer just in the tasting room tasting two batches that are different mash bills next to each other. And we all know, that that's going to be drastically different. But the average person is like, but isn't bourbon bourbon? And
Yeah,
and so then you
it's a
get to
whole world for
you get to
them.
have these really interesting conversations around the grains that make up bourbons and that then they taste them side by side and they go, wow, those are really different.
But
And you go, yeah, so what's your favorite bourbon again? And they're like, I don't even know what to
but
say now,
but I mean, I what's so funny about that is, okay, Scotch is actually a lot more regulated, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
you've got
Yes.
3 ingredients only ever, and oh my God, think of the range of Scotch, So the fact
Yes.
that
Yeah.
somebody can say isn't bourbon, wow, that kind of
Yeah.
blows my mind. But I do
Yeah.
totally get it. I totally get it as well. Yeah. So
That's where the average consumer is right now. So it's a
Yeah.
really fun time to be in the distilled spirits industry because I feel like pretty similar, and I'm not the first person to say this, but it's pretty similar to where the beer industry was in like the mid 90s, where it was the average person thought beer was beer, and you had your brand that you liked. And then Sierra Nevada comes out and Red Hook comes out, and people started tasting an IPA. And then now, fast forward, and you've got like gummy worm flavored sour beers and like all this crazy stuff on the shelves. In spirits, I feel like for the average person that walks in our distillery, it's the first time they've ever been in a distillery. They don't know what the products are made out of. They just think it grows on trees, I guess. And they've never seen a still before. So it's like they're just like the average person is just starting to discover what these things are. And it's, to me, that's really exciting to be in that place because there's so much education going on. And then some of them start to look at the liquor shelves differently. And they find out, oh, there's four giant conglomerates that own all this juice, and all these labels are basically the same thing, just kind of, you know what I mean? It's very interesting to watch the awakening, and hopefully it continues and we do end up somewhere where people are making decisions based on flavors and sourcing and all these fun things that I think, those of us that are deep down the rabbit hole here really care about. There's my soapbox. I guess I was like a big soapboxy thing.
I, I think we're all just like, yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
No, it's really fun. It's really fun. And one of the things that's the most fun, I know we're a whiskey thing here, but having people taste a craft vodka is really fascinating experience, because it doesn't taste just like rubbing alcohol. So it's really interesting and fun to be a part of it. And that's one of the reasons we don't want to grow out of our pants, because then we won't have time to be in the tasting room talking to people, and that's half the reason we do this.
So I'm still here looking at your batch listing,
I
and
love this, Kate.
I got down to the
Thank
beer
you.
schnapps, and I'm when are you going to do another beer schnapps?
I'm in.
Oh, it's coming. It's
And I'm
coming.
not a beer drinker, but I got to
Yeah.
say, beer schnapps, wow,
Yeah.
you know.
No, it's awesome.
It's
The
fun.
next batch will be bottled in the new year. I don't know if you have if you know when, like
I don't
Q1,
know.
Q2.
Yeah, the beer schnapps is funny because it is a dividing thing. When people taste it, they either love it or they hate it.
Yeah.
They're either like, this is the crazy coolest thing I've ever tasted in my life, or not for me.
It parts
Um,
the Red Sea, but yeah, like again, like we're not doing that. It's actually not distributed at all. Like it is, you do have to come to the distillery to get it,
yeah,
or send someone who's coming anywhere nearby.
yeah,
But yeah, like those are the products that you really get to geek out to, and we get to have fun collaborating with nearby brewers that we've gotten to know, and that brings that creativity into our production space, which is really why we do it.
yeah. And it's very old school and traditional, and in a way, because it's opportunistic, right? The only reason we did beer schnapps in the first place was because of COVID, and some brewer friends of ours had a whole ton of kegs that were aged out or were being returned because bars were closed, and they said, "Can you do anything with this?" And I said, "I'm sure we can." I don't know what it's going to taste like, but we're going to make beer schnapps out of it and age it like a whiskey. And that's very old school. Like that's the way people used to operate, right? That it was whatever your local resources and things that came across your place there is what you would work with. So it's really fun, and it's not something we have like beer made for us to do it. It's more that these opportunities come across our plate, and again, same thing with distilling different types of barley. It's been fascinating to distill different types of beer. So we've done like hazy IPAs, we've done blonde ales, we've done
Pilsner.
porters, pilsners. Strawberry blonde ale was one of the ones we did. We did
So,
like crazy stuff, and it's really fun to see how they all turn out different.
so question for you. I mean, because
and only because I just happened to see it at my local Costco yesterday. And I've in a previous life I was a big Sam Adams fan,
Yeah.
and they create the Utopia once a year.
Yep.
Right. So what you're saying, the beer schnapps, is that something like that, or is the Utopia from Sam Adams completely different?
That's the super high alcohol beer,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
basically shelf stable for a long
yeah.
Long
time.
time.
Yeah, that's a different kind of thing. So the beer schnapps is literally distilling beer. And the only reason it can't be called a whiskey is because you have hops in it, and whiskeys have to be grains, and a hop is a plant. And so that's like the technicality of it. But yeah, we'll take a finished beer, and then some people will just bottle it like that. And the tradition goes back to Bavaria and Oktoberfest because they make a ton of beer and then they have leftover beer. So the local small distillers would distill it after Oktoberfest, the leftover beer, and then age it. Um, some age, some
Yes,
bottle it,
somewhere white dog.
just yeah, bottle it like a schnapps, and then but we've chosen to age it and do different fun things with the aging process. Yeah, so it's very interesting. I call it, like, from a flavor profile, I say it's like whiskey up front, beer in the back,
Mhm.
like a mullet. Like it's very much, you can, a lot of times you can get that central grain kind of taste that you would get from a single malt, and we're doing barrel treatments to it, so it's getting some barrel character. But then you get this citrus and bitter notes of the hops. When you distill hops, it really comes across as like a citrus,
Yeah,
bitter,
totally.
floral sometimes.
Totally. Actually, the floral notes really come through if it's a lighter beer. If it's like a really nice traditional Pilsner, it's almost gin-like in its nose. It has this botanical nose that is really exceptional. Like beer shops, to me, the taste, I could take it or leave it, but I'll pour a little dram of it and I'll just nose it for like an
It's the
hour.
nose is fascinating,
Just,
yeah.
yeah, it's fun.
And the recommendation I always make for people when they're like, what do I do with this? A shot and a beer. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you can't, come on. Like, the
Classy.
flavors go so well together. The other thing that, maybe I like my drinks a little bit harder than some people, but you can also take like a beer schnapps made out of an IPA and put a shot in your IPA, and now you got a 20% IPA.
So
Um,
I was going to say something that we're not allowed to say anymore, Irish car bomb, right?
Yeah,
yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
exactly.
that's
Exactly.
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
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 And it's really
Yeah.
fun. It's been really fun, to your point earlier about being able to buy the varietal of wine, or the wine from the winery, that the finishing cask and that kind of thing. It's been fun when we do these beer schnapps, we print on the label what brewery it came from, what beer it was. So that person could go down to that brewery, usually they're fairly local to us, and buy a 6 pack of that beer. And it's the same damn thing. It's just we've distilled it and aged it. So it's really fun to see how that turns out.
The other thing, just because we're talking about beer schnapps, and again, it's just a fun way for us to get creative and collaborate. But we also earlier we said we produce brandy, of course, wine brandy, and we do. But we have some apple brandy in the makings because we're totally lucky to have this amazing young couple that opened a cidery not far from us in our county, and all of the ciders they produce are made with heirloom varietals of apples that they go around and find in the Sierra Nevada, and then, knock on people's door and say, hey, can we test out the apple on that tree in your front yard? And then they like graft it, and they're trying to bring back apple varietals because at one point there were many hundreds, and now we've got like three to choose from. So they're creating these exceptional ciders, and we have distilled some of those, and they're in the barrel. I think they've been in the barrel about 3 years now.
Yeah, and every time I see the cider maker, he asks me when we're
Like,
gonna
when are
bottle
we
it.
gonna bottle it? But we're like, it's doing great. Like, let's just keep it stewing.
Yeah.
Like, there's no rush. Like, it's not, let's just keep this puppy
It's
going
a
for a bit.
it's just a really fun industry to be a part of, and we came to it from the outside as fans. And so it's really fun when you run across another person who's as geeky as you are about a different thing. I mean, the concept of going and finding varietals of apples that were, that the settlers brought here and saving them for posterity's sake and that's the name of the cidery, Posterity Cider Works, is pretty cool. And the guy is just so into it,
Yeah.
and he crafts beautiful ciders. And so it's just really fun, and we're very fortunate to have these other amazing craftspeople around us.
But
Cool.
to be clear,
Yeah.
he's giving you some cider and you're distilling the cider.
Yeah,
Correct.
so
Okay.
we give him quite a few of our bourbon barrels once they're spent because he actually ages some of his ciders in our ex-bourbon barrels. But in return, he's like, hey, have some of the cider. I mean, his cider is like traditional method, so its shelf life is very, very short. And yeah, we've been able to distill it and are now aging that. So I'm super excited about those are the things like there's no distribution, you're not doing this kind of stuff to make money off of it. It's just like, wow, we actually get to geek out and do some unique things that distillers have been doing for centuries, but you're not going to find it on a normal shelf.
So I met this guy in Paso Robles who,
Yeah.
you know, he did it commercially. Maybe he still does it, but he did it commercially and he just had this little tiny still made out of like a beer keg or something. I mean,
Yeah.
and it was the Frankenstein still. He showed it to me.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so cool. And he talked about how somebody gave him a batch of apples and he decided to, mash them up and distill them. And he was watching and it was dripping off the still and it was clear liquid, clear liquid, clear liquid. And suddenly it turned like this bright kind of dark crimson type of color. And he was like, oh my God. So he pulled the barrel, his bucket out of the way and he put in another bucket because he wanted to see what it was. And he tasted it and it tasted like candy, the Red Hots
Oh
candy
yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
or cinnamon. And apparently so he figured it, he did all this research and found out I think it's called cinnamonic that comes out of, yeah,
Apple.
at the
Wow.
end of the
Crazy.
distillation, and
Wow.
it's in the tail.
So it's in the tails. Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know if I want to put that in this beautifully clear liquid that I just distilled. But then he married the two together and he got
Yeah.
this amazing apple brandy. And
Cool.
I was geeking out, like just
Yeah.
listening to him talk about it and how
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you got to do that again. And I've got to get my virtual tasting society up here to
Yeah.
see this. And but
That's awesome.
yeah, but it's the fun stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I wish you guys had done that too,
Yeah.
because it'd be fun to hear you guys go through that discovery process. But
Yeah.
but
It's
you're
awesome. And
getting
like why
yeah.
why do you do this if you can't do fun things and work with other people? And at least for us, that's the point of us doing it. There's obviously a lot of different reasons that people start businesses, but for us, it was really the discovery and it's a fascinating industry to be in, and I think it's an amazing time in this industry. I think there's a ton of innovation and really great products being made by small and large people alike. So it's a really cool thing to be a part of, and you guys know that because you get to taste all this wonderful juice every day.
What's the best way to get to you guys? Is it fly into Sacramento and drive down? What's the easiest route?
So from LA, we are about a 7 hour drive. So flying to Sac is the closest airport to us. And then renting a car, we are almost exactly 2 hours from the Sacramento airport. So when we go down to Southern California, we usually fly out of Sacramento and go to Burbank or LAX for sure.
Gotcha.
It is, if anyone is serious about visiting us, obviously it goes without saying, you better let us know, give us some advance warnings so that we can, we can kind of really properly show you around. There, we are about 1 mile from, it's called Big Trees State Park. It's a California state park, and it is one of the last surviving and the largest grove of giant sequoia trees on the face of the earth. And the trees date back to about the time of Christ. But being in California, as many of us are, I'm very used to redwoods and the height of redwoods. Giant sequoias are known for their height, but their actual size, their whole dimension is quite literally the size of like my dining room here. So it's spectacular to see. So a lot of people will stop at our distillery en route to go explore the giant sequoia or to hike or alpine lakes, or we have a ski resort nearby. So definitely, if anyone's planning on coming up, there's a lot to do in the area in the great outdoors.
I need to get up and see you guys. Kenny, I don't know if you know Kenny Foote. He comes up and sees you guys a lot.
Yes, I totally know Kenny. He's
Yeah.
such a good guy. Okay, that's awesome.
I'm
Big beard Kenny.
yeah.
Yes.
I was with him, and I got excited when you said Big Trees because I was telling Jason here that's Big Trees is where we went camping all the time when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
I love getting up in that area.
It's the reason
dive bar burger joint up there.
Yeah, that's across the street from our distillery. It's
Oh,
called
okay.
Giant Burger. And then
Yeah.
the Lube Room is another one. So there's a couple.
Oh, Lube Room. I've been to Lube Room.
Lube Room, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful spot. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people say they hear Big Trees and they think I've seen big trees, but these are, I mean, the base of them, some of the giant ones are the size of a house.
Yeah.
Like the scale is crazy. When you walk up to them, it's at least for me, it was life changing. And that's why we moved here in the first place. We went camping in Big Trees to see the giant sequoia, and we fell in love with the area, and then we tried to figure out a way to be here.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
and then figured out that maybe that way was making alcohol. So
yeah, I'm definitely Kenny and I are trying to get up and see you guys within the next month or two.
That'd be awesome.
It's a fun thing. I always recommend just hop on to Airbnb, get a local cabin, get yourself a little A-frame and hang out for the weekend. It's not a bad weekend, even if you don't like the distillery. It's still a
You don't like
still
the
a fun
distillery.
it's still a fun weekend.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. I feel bad. Like I feel like we just like chatted and chatted and chatted the whole night, but you guys were such a pleasure. Like we really can't thank you all enough. This is not something that we typically do. We do a lot of tastings when people come to our distillery, and increasingly I try to do events around the state of California as my time allows for. But doing this in a virtual format, Vadim, if you came up with it, brilliant. Like I was like, yes, we could actually make that happen because you distilled all day today and I worked today. And so this was an amazing format. And I really appreciate everyone giving of their time and sampling, what we're doing. And yeah, really appreciate you guys and gals.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to spend the evening with us. We know you're super busy, and I personally love, and I know a lot of everyone that's here obviously agrees with me. We love discovering smaller brands that, family run, just doing fun things because you can't, right? If you have a flagship product that you have to contain and you have to do consistency and you have to put out millions of bottles, like you can't really mess around. You don't have that artistic freedom. And you guys really get, 17 varietals of wine. And I'd like, the only thing I can think in my mind is like, I wish you had saved 1 ounce of everything and put it in a kit so we could all taste them side by side.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to do that from now on.
We have to start doing that. So yeah.
Advent calendars, like our version of a Flaviar Advent calendar or something.
Yeah.
I would say better than the Flaviar, but yes, Advent calendars. We all do it. Yeah, for sure.
Work with Jason Souter on that. That would be great.
Okay. All
He's
right,
great.
Jason.
Yep. Before we let you go, though, we do have a couple of things that we like to do. Is we want to take a moment to say thank you and take a group photo. So if everybody could turn on their cameras.
Awesome.
And there you go. Lon is here. He's wearing a dress shirt, looking so spiffy today. I love it. Tim, Dressel? Tim, join us. All right. So yes, thank you so much. I'm going to be doing a screen grab, so you're going to have to give it like 10 seconds, but we're going to wait for everyone to raise a glass and smile to the camera. Got it. This works great in case the screen grab that YouTube grabs, I don't like it. If it has my
Yes,
face, then I can
that's
use
so smart. That
that.
is so smart.
And then the next one is, so we voted for our favorite of the night. Just about everyone has
Cool.
voted. You could have voted
Okay.
too. I think you probably did not vote
We did not. We did not.
for your favorite child. What do you
Yeah.
think was the group's favorite pour of the night?
Damn. I just from knowing what little I do with everyone here, I might say that you're geeks like me, and you might go for that port finish singularity single malt.
Nate, do you agree?
I think I do agree, but it might be just because I haven't had an opportunity to taste it in a few weeks. And this last bottle that's sealed up sitting in front of me looks so tasty.
But we can't open it.
All right. Well, the results are in, and
Let's hear.
by a big margin, the winner is Singularity.
Oh, thank you guys.
Amazing.
44%
Amazing.
voted for Singularity.
Wow. And then look at how even the bourbons were. Like, I love
Right?
seeing that. That's super cool.
Yeah.
They each got a vote,
Um,
and yeah, and the
that's
discovery
awesome.
also made it onto the board. So you guys are, I mean,
Uh,
look, there's something to be said for sourcing and putting your touch on it and making it special and making it
sure.
interesting, and we love and respect that. But there's something else to be said about crafting your own spirit from grain to glass,
Yeah.
and kudos to you. That you guys are I mean, I can see why Anna made the introduction. I can see where the love and the
Oh,
passion is coming from. So well done.
that's awesome.
Thank you. We appreciate it so much. And this industry has been so awesome to us. People like Anna and Caitlin and tons of others. It's such a great industry to be a part of and so
Yeah.
welcoming. It's pretty amazing. And then of course just getting to hang out with people like you, who are like us. It's fun, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
Where can we
appreciate it.
follow you? What do we do?
Yeah,
Shout it
thank
out.
you. So we are on socials. We are primarily Instagram, but Facebook as well. And it's just at Hinterhaus Distilling. So that's kind of where we share daily stories and posts and what's going on behind the scenes and new releases, etc. You can also sign up for our email newsletter if you want less frequency but more detail on upcoming special releases. And that's just like going to the homepage of our website, hinterhausdistilling.com, scroll to the bottom, and it gives you a little prompt like, sign up for the e-letter or something like that. Really, really appreciate it. Yes, if you all have favorite retailers in either California or Colorado, because those are the two states that we have distribution at retail too, and you want to see them carry us, feel free. You can email me. My name is Bonnie, Bonnie, at hinterhausdistilling.com. So now you all have my direct email, Bonnie at hinterhausdistilling.com. If you're like, hey, Bonnie, I really want to see you on the shelf at such and such a retailer near me, I would be happy to reach out. Retailers typically love it more from hearing from their patrons directly, but I definitely want to reach out and intro myself and my brand to any spots that you all have learned to love and trust as far as your consumer sentiment of walking in a place and feeling like they've curated a really nice selection.
Awesome. Oh, I almost forgot. Everyone who's still here, please do not log off. Bonnie and Nate sent us some stuff to raffle off. So those of you who are
Oh,
here have good odds.
great.
Good on you for showing up. We got a really fun hat, and then they sent us these two beautiful rocks glasses. I don't know where you got those made. I was
Aren't
really
those
tempted
great?
to swipe one, but decided to be good, and I left him for the
Yep.
group. There we go. Jane's
Yep.
got him in front of her. So
Awesome,
um,
Jane.
I'm gonna toss some names into a randomizer, and then we'll give away. I think we'll give away the glasses in a set just because they look so pretty. And we'll do the hat as well. So
But
Oh, that's so
by
cool.
the way, I wanted to say that from the uh, the rye didn't get any votes.
Yeah, I know, which
But
is amazing. Like, I'll take it as a compliment, kind of.
no, I honestly, I would have like I was torn between the rye and the port finish, and I thought, well, okay, the port finish was really good, but it's
Aw.
not available, so maybe I should just.
Yeah.
But the rye was my second, and I suspect it was the second
Cool,
for a lot of people. So
cool.
but I could be wrong. I mean, um,
No,
anyway,
I'm glad. It
I
was really
it
the
didn't
whole
seem
lineup.
to get the love like it should have. A lot of us really liked the rye, as you can see from the comments. So
I'm really glad.
That's because
Well,
everybody wants to order it before it's gone and they don't want other people thinking it's good.
Right. There we go.
we're gonna pick up a bottle a week. So we have a local, I'm not gonna say where, because they only have like 4 bottles left. Picking up, no, I'm serious. We're picking up a bottle of batch 25 tomorrow. There's a place like 12 minutes.
Amazing.
And it's
Oh my
77
God.
69. So after we get our bottle,
Yes.
I might let people know where it is.
That is so sweet. And you're in Irvine, it looks like,
Yeah,
Sandra.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, there are
It's in our
Rat it
ascent.
out, let her
I
go get
won't
it.
I won't
It's
tell
in
him,
our
but I
ascent.
was like, there are places down there, not many, but there are. I would love to expand our Southern California distribution. We don't have boots on the ground as far as like I'm the salesperson. So if I'm only down there once or twice a year, it just, as you can imagine, we don't get on a lot of shelves there, but there are spots down there that do
you know
have
who
some
would be
of
a
us. So
great salesperson for your rye would be
yes. Would be who?
Jane.
She just cut out. Jane. Oh, poor Jane. She's like, I hate rye.
She would
Don't
walk
drag
into
me
the
into the
store
rye
and say,
world.
"This is a rye I don't hate," which is a
Yeah.
really good selling point, right?
Exactly. That's why she'd be a
She
great
goes,
salesperson.
"Carry
just,
this
just
because
to,
I don't hate it."
just to put it in perspective, Jane's been on about 320 of our tastings. So,
Wow.
so
Wow.
one of 7 that she likes is a pretty
It's
good
pretty
price.
good.
We'll take it.
We've
Yeah.
done
Pretty
a
good.
lot of rye.
Yeah. You guys, you know what? I feel so bad. Like, yeah, it's 9. So I'm sure you're like us. You got to go. I realize this is the kind of geeky shit that I love. We named this rye Trapper's Oath, and I don't even, did I tell you this story of why we chose Trapper's Oath and why Nate is actually on there? This is like Nate, our this, this is supposed to be Nate in full-on trapping gear. So
That was
we
unbeknownst to me,
yeah, it
by
was
the way.
unbeknownst to him. But we wanted to pay homage to the fact that this was distilled and primarily aged in the Hudson Bay of Canada. So I grew up on the Atlantic coast, and when I think of the Hudson Bay, I still think of the Hudson Bay Fur Trapping Company. I mean, they dominated North America for the early centuries. So I went down the rabbit hole of all different fur trapping references and for a name to name this product. And ultimately, I came across Trapper's Oath, and the trapper working for the Hudson Bay Trading Company had to take an oath, swearing that he would not steal any of the pelts when he was out for months at a time. And he did this with the barrel of a gun in his mouth, with the insinuation being very clear that he would be shot and killed immediately if he was suspected of taking a single pelt. And I thought, wow, what a morbid history. And I'm really morbid, like I love morbid shit. And so I said, this is brilliant. Like, I love this. So, yeah, looking closely, if anyone does order this, there is an old fur trapper here. And actually, he also appears in the back artwork. It's just hard to see with the whiskey in it.
I can show them the shotguns.
Oh, yeah. And then, okay, I'm going to really zoom in here. If you look at the O in Trapper's Oath, that is a shotgun shell.
Oh wow.
So
The detail.
this actually does come in a box. So this is a product that that is sold in a box. So that also has some fun details. But it's that kind of stuff that's like, wow, I never, when you own your own distillery, you can actually make up these decisions for yourself, and it's just been fun. We just really enjoy like every single part of the process, even things like that.
Wonderful. So Nate, tell us, blink twice if you're being held against your will.
I know. I was gonna say, what does that say about me? That she put my face on there and it's this trapper's oath? Like,
Right.
the other thing I was gonna say is that maybe that's a reflection of how seriously we take whiskey.
No shotgun marriages or anything. Got it. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I
All
love
right.
it.
Well,
Well,
let
thank
me
you
run this
guys.
randomizer real quick and give some
Yes.
really cool stuff away. And then somebody at home, I mean, if you win, you gotta get at least a bottle and send us a picture in the Facebook group or on our Instagram to show us that you're drinking the right whiskey out of it. I double check to make sure I think everybody's names are on here. I'm gonna do a quick shuffle.
Wow, this is so professional, guys. It's
You know, it's
amazing.
with all the ads right here, you know it.
This is awesome.
So we're gonna run it twice. First person, and then you have to be present to win. Michael
Can I just
Anderson, you get
point
to
out
pick.
that my name is not on there?
It's not. It's not.
Woo!
Wait, hold on. Thank you for pointing it out, Henrik. Sorry, Michael. Henrik. You
So,
know,
so Anna's name is on there, but I feel like she should stay on there because
She did
yeah.
bring this all, she made this
exactly.
happen. She
I
made
feel
this
like
happen.
there's a couple of celebrity names on here.
Caitlin,
If those of you are
Caitlin's
keeping track at
Totally.
home.
Totally. And it
All
is
right.
Caitlin's birthday. So yeah.
Yeah. She's already tagged us on Instagram and she's got a bunch of
Oh,
she's an influencer, so we're excited for
it's
that.
awesome.
Exactly.
All right, so, sorry, Michael. Henrik ruined it for you. That's weird. I don't. It's so strange you weren't on the list. I hope Michael wins it still.
Oh,
Hey.
Kate!
Hey, you
Yay!
get to pick. Do you want the glasses or the hat?
The glasses for
All
sure.
right, you got to pick those up. We're not shipping those.
Okay, I'll pick them up.
All right, perfect. Good luck.
Oh, and it all works out.
B.
You did it.
Michael.
Oh my
I'm
God. Good job. Congratulations, buddy. Are you here? Yeah. All right. He's here.
That's
Well,
awesome.
wow. That's
Nobody saw your finger on the wheel, buddy.
Yeah.
I put my foot down
That's
just a
great.
little bit to slow it down, you know? We got you.
Aw.
That worked
Well,
out. All right, buddy. Well, you get the awesome hat. Okay, Jane, did you show it
that's
off?
awesome.
It looks great. It matches your shirt.
It's very Gilligan's Island, I feel.
Gilligan's Island. Wow.
Oh yeah, well, just because it has a rope on it.
Oh,
Oh, thank you.
I,
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
That seems
Michael.
very suitable for Michael, actually.
Okay.
I'm sure he's got a boat somewhere.
That's right. That's right.
He
Well,
reminds
thank
me
you.
of Thurston Howell the Third.
Oh, yeah. My God, it's been a long time. It's great.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Awesome. If you know what, when you guys have a few more expressions going on, if you ever want to revisit, we'd love to touch base with you. If you have the opportunity to distill a sour beer, please let me know. Because I'm
Yes.
not a big fan of IPAs, but a distilled IPA, I've loved just about every single one I've had. I love
Yeah.
sours, and I've never known of anyone to do a sour, like a fruity sour, be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it
That
sounds
would be
like you guys have.
amazing.
There was only one distillery in San Diego that used to do it, and the guy was a mad genius, and then he sold it, and now they just
Oh.
everything they put out is sourced. It's such a sad. It's
Oh.
like a loss for the
Yeah.
industry, but you guys
Yeah.
are still carrying on the flame and doing a great job, and so we look forward to seeing your success. And if you're ready to do another one some of that in the future, we'd love to have you back.
thank you. We really appreciate it. It's been great, and we will definitely share some stuff going on in the future.
Please do. Yeah. Let me know anything I can share in the group. We'll definitely support you guys as best as we can.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Have a great
Thank you.
evening.
Come visit
Thank
us.
you. Good night.
Bye.